Should you tip at an all-inclusive resort? So this is a question I get a lot, and it's a topic that causes quite a lot of controversy. So in this video, I'm going to tell you whether or not I think you should tip at an all-inclusive resort, give you a 2025 guideline on who to tip and approximately how much. And if you are new to my channel, 3 days and Tres Noches, I bring you honest resort reviews, but also travel tip videos like this one. So please like and subscribe. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok. So why is this a controversial topic? Well, I think because since it's called an all-inclusive resort, most people feel that the gratuities should also be included. And some resorts do include gratuities in their rates, like Sandals, I know, is one that they do not want you tipping the staff extra because it's included in your rate. But for the most part, gratuities are not included, especially when you're going to places like Mexico, Dominican Republic, and Jamaica. The staff works for very low wages and they rely on the tips as part of their income. So I think another reason why it's so controversial is because tipping is not a part of everyone's culture. I think it's mostly an American thing and we've kind of blown it out of proportion. So it puts pressure on some other travelers when they come thinking that they have to tip in order to get good service. So this is my take on this whole topic. And of course, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section as well. I'm an American. I grew up in a tipping culture. So of course, it's very natural for me to go to these places and tip. But I will say Mexico, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, where most of the all-inclusive resorts are also cultures that rely on tips. Most of the workers get very low wages and rely on the tips for income. And I know some people will say, well, that's not my fault that the hotels don't pay them more, and it shouldn't be put on me to have to pay more money to carry around money and tip the workers in order to get better service. And I can kind of understand that point of view, but I will tell you a little goes a long way. You don't have to tip a lot to make a worker feel appreciated. I'm going to share with you who I tip and how much. Now, I'm not saying this is what you have to do. Tipping is not mandatory, it's subjective, because again, I get a lot of comments about tipping. I'm just going to share my experiences based on all my travels, especially to all-inclusive resorts, and what I think the average is. Let's start with airport transfers. You should definitely tip your driver. I usually do private transportation, and the guide there is 10 to 20% of whatever the cost of the ride is. Once you get to the resort, the first person you usually see is the bellboy. I usually give them $3 to $5. These are the people that are taking your luggage to the room. And of course, the bartenders, people always ask me about that. I usually give them $1 every time I order a drink, or if you know you're going to be at the pool or the beach in the same spot, you could even do something up front like 10 or 20 bucks and be like, hey, this is for the day, just hook us up. Now for wait staff, it kind of depends. At the buffet, I'll leave a few dollars. I also like to tip the people that are doing the made to order omelets. And then for a la carte meals, it just kind of depends. Sometimes it's $5. If it's a really nice restaurant and the level of service was really good, I'll go as far sometimes to leave them 10. Again, I tend to be an over tipper, so I will even tip the entertainment staff or even just employees that guide me along the way. If I ask them a question, I'll give them $1. So I always just have singles on hand. Last but not least, one of the most important, I think, is the housekeeping staff, and I feel like they often get overlooked. So I usually give them $5 to $10 at least, or at least a few dollars a day. Sometimes I even try to write like a really nice little handwritten note because I feel like they're not as appreciated as some of the other staff at the resort. And again, I kind of feel like they're the most important because they're coming in every single day and cleaning your room. Now for concierge and butlers, it definitely depends because the level of service is different at different resorts. Sometimes you have a concierge just sitting at a desk, answering questions, maybe setting up reservations for you, versus a butler who's giving you very personalized, round-the-clock, customized service. So for our concierge, I might give them $10 for my stay, versus a butler, I try to give $5 to $10 per day. Of course, if you are using any of the spa services, the guide is like 10 to 20% of the cost of the service. Which leads me to what currency should you tip in? And I usually just tip in US dollars. I know in Dominican Republic, Mexico, and Jamaica, the US dollar is very strong and widely accepted everywhere. And I get confused when I have to exchange the money and then do the math in my head. Now, some people feel that that's disrespectful, that you should tip in the country's currency, but I have checked in with all of the employees and workers. I ask them all of the time. They say, no, it's completely fine. They have no problem with it at all. But if you want to tip in the country's currency, my suggestion would be try to do the exchange before going so you don't have to make a stop at the bank and exchange money or do it at the airport. And then if you do decide to exchange the country's currency, just do some calculations ahead of time so you know that you're tipping appropriately. I also try to set aside a tipping budget. Usually I try to do like $20 or $25 a day, and I will put them in separate envelopes. So like day 1, day 2, day 3, again, because I tend to be an over tipper and I can blow through it quickly. So that way I keep on track. Even if you're not comfortable with some of the guides I'm giving you, you here today. Even $1 means a lot to these people, and it shows appreciation. Another thing people ask me is how to carry the money around, because they don't want to be bothered with having to carry all this money around. It's an all-inclusive resort, and that's part of the appeal. So usually what I do is I just throw it in my beach bag. I have like a zipper pocket. I also have those waterproof cases that sometimes I put it in, but honestly, it's really no big deal. I just throw it in my beach bag with my sunscreen, and it's not a hassle at all. Again, if you don't want to tip every time you get a drink or every time you do something, and you know you're going to be at one place the whole time, you can always just tip at the end or up front one lump sum. Now, some people believe the amount you tip means you're going to get better service. And I guess in theory, that's kind of the concept of tipping, right? But actually tipping is a reward for good service. So that's why they are motivated to give you really good service, because they want to earn that gratuity. So even if you just want to do a budget of $5 or $10 a day, it will definitely be appreciated. And I know there's a lot of different type of employees that work at a resort, and it can get overwhelming and expensive if you start tipping everybody. But if you find somebody going above beyond, they're giving you service, they're helping you, again, a little goes a long way. $1 will even mean a lot. And of course, I would love to hear your thoughts about this topic. So put those in the comments section below. Also, if I forgot any certain employees that we should tip at these resorts. And if you're in the middle of trying to plan a trip and you're feeling very overwhelmed, go to the description. I have free downloadable trip planners that you can find on my website. Also, we can help you book travel now. And I have a really active Facebook group. So they share resort experiences. You can ask questions in there. Again, all of that will be in the description below. Keep following. I'm really excited. I have an upcoming trip to Tulum and Playa del Carmen. So I have a lot more content coming to you and a lot more trips planned for 2025.